Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Good. Didn't have to wait as long as I thought we would there. Waited a little while for interviews today, but I think we got to talk to tight ends, and we got to, maybe most importantly, got to talk to Kevin Wilson, who is always a fantastic interview subject. This is one of these days that, teams have games circled on their schedule. The day Kevin Wilson talks during preseason camp is always like, I've always got that one circled on my schedule.
Yeah, we were originally supposed to get Ryan Day as well and some practice. I'm glad we didn't. We don't need Ryan Day. Give us Kevin Wilson. That's all we need. Give us the tight ends. That's all we need because, Tom, 2022 is the year of the tight end, as everybody knows. And as we saw today, just based on interviews, these guys are going to catch a lot of passes. You have some information on that.
I do. Cade Stover was up at the podium. Kevin Wilson was finished with his interview, walked over to Cade Stover and said, Cade, how many passes are you going to catch this year? Cade Stover said 40, which, if you were familiar with the history of the Ohio State tight end position, is aggressive. And, they sort of bantered back and forth a little while. And Wilson said, well, you got to remember, you're going to get 2 or 3 pregame every game. So, and you know what? That's a pretty good line. So, and then after Wilson walked away, Stover just kind of mouthed to the camera, just held up 4 fingers, 40. He thinks it. He believes it. We'll see if it comes true.
With a 15-game schedule, as everybody is expecting, 3 catches in pregame, that's 45 right there. So that's pretty good. And, you don't even have to catch it. Every pass that he catches in a game is bonus, complete bonus. Now, I believe Mitch Rossi was asked the same question, and he said 50. So tight end controversy. We do know from what Kevin Wilson had to say, those are your top 2 tight ends right now. Cade Stover, Mitch Rossi. When they're in the 12 personnel, they really, I think, fit each other well because they like that second blocking guy. Cade Stover proving himself more and more as a guy who can catch the pass, as we saw Thursday when he was catching 80-yard bombs down the sideline, catching stuff in the seam, catching stuff, corner routes. So those 2 guys have set themselves apart. And talking to Mitch Rossi, he fully expects much more involvement this year. And I think we didn't know what the 12 personnel was going to look like. 2 tight ends, 1 back for you guys. Weren't sure how that was going to develop. Seems like it's developing well, but not exactly where they want it just yet, at least in terms of short yardage stuff.
Yeah, Kevin Wilson talked about, Cade and Mitch, Cade Stover, Mitch Rossi, getting close to game ready. G and Joe, so G. Scott, Joe Royer, a little more to do, but, kind of the next 2 there. But I think the thing that's going to keep the 12 personnel off the field is not necessarily the fact that those guys aren't ready or they don't have a role for them. It's going to be, there's a number that isn't in there. The 1 is the running backs, the 2 is the tight ends. The number that's not in there is the number of wide receivers, which that means if you're playing 12 personnel, you only got 2 wide receivers because you only got 5 skill guys other than the quarterback. So that's going to, probably limit the 12 personnel to that sort of short yardage situation. And, that's obviously an area where they struggled a little bit last year. So if they can, if they feel comfortable with those guys and they feel like, how many times have we watched other programs have tight ends who, in short yardage sort of, sneak out and run a little 5-yard out or something like that on 3rd and 1. If Cade Stover is as developed in terms of pass catching as it appears and as it sounds like he is, that may be an option this year. He's been putting in a lot of work this summer.
He's a farmer.
He is, and we'll get to that one later. He had a lot of interesting things to say. One thing was he has been working with Keenan Bailey 4 or 5 times a week for 45 minutes, an hour, all summer long, just working on route running, working on all the little stuff with route running to get it really down to a science. He said working on his eyes, working on his leverage, the top ends of the routes, where you have to stick when you're going to make a cut, all the little stuff, because we've seen Keenan Bailey and Brian Hartline develop wide receivers who do all the little stuff. You see Chris Olave go to the NFL, and it's like, wow, he does all the little stuff right. It's like, well, yeah, that's because of Keenan Bailey and Brian Hartline. Now, Cade Stover is really putting in that work to potentially be able to do a lot of the, that little stuff right to be an impact player in that passing game.
Mitch Rossi said he's been watching Jackson Smith and Jigba, Julian Fleming, Marvin Harrison, watching how they run their routes and picking up stuff from them as well. Because one of the things that I took from him is we always talk about them as they all have these different kind of traits. And he is saying, like, I want to show people I can do whatever a tight end can do. You don't have to take me off the field if you want to throw something down the seam. Like, I can do whatever. And he's been working on that pass catching stuff, because when you look at him, when you think about him, he's the fullback, 6'1", 245 or whatever. You don't think of him as running routes, but he's been putting time doing that as well, so that he can be out there for whenever they need him, and he doesn't just have to be this guy who comes in on short yardage, or when he comes in, you know what's coming, which makes the offense more predictable, which is not what you want at all. So I think those two guys, it was good talking to them. One of the things that Mitch said is he really enjoys watching Emeka Egbuka, just the way he attacks the defense. And so just inside, I think he's going to be pretty good. I know you're more of a wait and see guy, but just, one other thing from Mitch Rossi there.
Cade Stover talked about the move to tight end, because he's ping-ponged all around the field. I think he started as a linebacker, then moved to defensive end, then moved to tight end, then moved back to linebacker, now back to tight end. And, they basically presented him with the option before the season, or, after last season, like, look, at some point, he has spent multiple years saying, you're going to do whatever's best for the team. And it's like, at some point, you have to do what's best for yourself. And he looked at, okay, what's best for me? And he said, you look at the NFL, and there's not a lot of 6'5", 265-pound middle linebackers anymore. That's just not where the linebacker position is in the NFL anymore. You look at the tight end, you look at the numbers that people are putting up in the combine in the tight end, the tight end position, and it's like, yeah, okay, I can do that. So that was kind of the genesis of that move, and as I said, he's really been putting in the work. You mentioned Mitch Rossi not wanting to just be the guy who comes in and it's like, well, it must be run because they've got the fullback in. G. Scott talked about kind of something similar where he said, I don't want to be a wide receiver playing tight end. I want to be a tight end playing tight end. So, Mitch Rossi, those are guys who are kind of developing, their skill sets are kind of the exact opposite. As of a year ago, one was really a blocker, one was really a pass catcher, and then now they're kind of learning from learning the opposite sides of that job. But, the goal there is kind of the same.
Yeah, you have to be able to do everything, or else you can't do anything, in terms of first quarter, second quarter, when games are still in doubt. So they're all obviously working towards that. Mitch Rossi, now in his 6th year, I asked him, when you decided to walk on at Ohio State, where did you see yourself in 5 or 6 years? And he said, well, probably in an office, investment banking or something. But now he has like a possibility of an NFL future. And I know he doesn't like talking about being a fullback necessarily now, but that is coming back into vogue in the NFL. There's this generation of lost fullbacks, basically, who never got a chance to, like, well, we don't need fullbacks, so now you are like a slow middle linebacker. You are
NFL Brigadoon. That's what you're looking for.
And so now that's coming back into vogue. I tweeted out last year or so ago that, like, since 1996, every Ohio State tight end that has finished his career as a tight end has made NFL money. And I don't know if it was Sam Hart or Bennett Christian saying, like somebody asked, like, why Ohio State? They don't throw the ball. And he said, well, Kevin Wilson always tells us that, since 1996, so it's like, that's right. That's right.
Cite your sources, Kevin Wilson. I'm sure you were in the footnote for that slide in that recruiting pitch.
Very much so, yes. At least Pat Murphy standing next to me looked back at me. He's like, that's your stat.
Thank you for citing Pat Murphy for citing you.
Yes.
That's good. Cade Stover is always a lot of fun to talk about. I have a lot of Cade Stover notes. Cade Stover is always a lot of fun to talk about because he's first of all, he's got a really good personality, really funny guy. But also, he's a little bit different. You get guys from all over the place, and you talk about Ohio State football kind of being the melting pot, or you got the guys from the cities and the guys from, the less affluent neighborhoods and the more affluent neighborhoods, and the guys from all over the country and all that kind of stuff. And Stover is a farmer. Like, he is a farmer. Like, not just like, oh, he lives, in a place where sometimes you see tractors driving down the field. Like, no, he is a farmer. His family is a farm family. He talked about, someone was asking him, what's the thing that you learned from farming that you kind of take into football? And he said, you don't get to take days off. If it's Christmas morning, still got to feed the cows. It's your birthday. Congratulations. Happy birthday. Go feed the cows. Like, you got to feed the cows every day. There are no days off. And, I think that goes sort of to that anecdote about Keenan Bailey, working with Keenan Bailey, or, it's summertime, like go, hang out. He's going to go put in his 45 minutes or hour or whatever at the working on that stuff. But yeah, he talked about how much it meant to be a captain, and the Ohio State social media team, I think, put out a video of him calling his mom and telling his mom that he was a captain, and she got very emotional. The other thing, and this will be a smooth transition to Joe Royer. Joe Royer apparently told a story where that Cade Stover Cade Stover's dad cuts his hair, which you immediately went, well, it's a farm kid.
That's farmers, yeah.
Stover has kind of like a mohawk, and he said he's had the same haircut since he was 3 years old. So, it's like, yeah, if it's working for you, no reason to change.
It's got him this far. Like, if the hair gets you that far, just keep going with it. Yeah, he's always great to talk to. He has grown, like, as a talker, he's letting his personality show more, gotten more comfortable. And, 4 years later, 3.5, 4 years later, now he's a captain. And I think all of that comfort shows. I was asking these guys, including Kevin Wilson, like, what about this defense makes it difficult for a tight end or really for an offense? And they're just talking about how you see so many different looks. And this is Bennett Christian saying, and he's a true freshman, but he was in here in the spring, and so he has a little bit more of an idea of a defense. But, like, just the amount of different looks that you get and where everybody is and is not, because it changes from play to play. And he said, like, he's starting to get a feel for it. They picked up on some tells. He said, like, it's made it easy for us. Wait, and then he was like, no, not easy, but easier. Like, they have some things that they now know about the defense because, now we are two camps in that they've started to figure some stuff out, and that's something that most opponents won't have the benefit of doing. But all of the returns on the defense from these guys has been very, very positive.
Yeah, G. Scott talked about the defense, said that whole defense looked really good, said they looked energetic and consistent. He said they're playing great. I can't wait to see them play against another team because this is practice 10, I think, and I think you've hit the point of camp where it's like, all right, we're kind of tired of seeing these guys. We're ready to go hit someone else again now. Cade Stover was talking about Jim Knowles. He said, "quote, that's a top of the line dude." He said he would go to war with Jim Knowles. He talked about how fast and confusing the defense is with just so many looks. You get so many different looks thrown at you that it's hard to sort of keep up. I mean, it's hard to just, and he talked about it gives him a lot of confidence to have to go against that defense and know, there's going to be a certain amount of time where this fall, you've been swinging the weighted bat in the on-deck circle, and then, okay, now you're not going against the Jim Knowles defense, so you take the donut off, and boy, that bat feels pretty light. Talked about that, how much confidence that gave him. Also, having to block Steel Chambers and Tommy Eichenberg and JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer, it's like, how many guys are you going to be blocking this year who are better than those guys? Probably not that many, so that's a big thing as well.
Bennett Christian talked about the defense, how it was in the scrimmage on Saturday where he was coming down the line to fill a hole and block somebody, and Tyler Friday just blasted him, just like completely destroyed him. And, that was one of those welcome to college football moments where, okay, all right, so that's what this is like. It's not all that fun. Kevin Wilson talking about how it's been challenging with this defense, but also mentioned in the scrimmage that the longer the drive, the sloppier the offense got. So they needed to work on that, and they worked on that today where I guess they set up the scenario of just long drives. And so they tried to get them to remain focused and to keep their fundamentals about them as the drive was going on and on. And so, like, they're picking up on some of the stuff that they're struggling at, and then they're getting back to work on it the very next opportunity they've got.
Yeah, a couple things that were also kind of interesting today. Hang on, I'm scrolling. There's a lot of stuff. Kevin Wilson talking about Mitch Rossi and just how big a role. I mean, we talked about earlier, Mitch Rossi is probably, one of those top two tight ends. Kevin Wilson said he's much more valuable than people realize. He said he might be one of the top 14 to 15 best players on offense. And when, you go starting 11, okay. And then, okay, you want to throw another wide receiver in there. Okay, that's another one. And then all of a sudden you're to Mitch Rossi. And I think he's exactly right. You're getting to Mitch Rossi's name a lot earlier than people might think. G. Scott talked about the fact that he is at 240 pounds now.
Wow.
I think he was listed at 225 on the roster. He pointed that out to Jerry Emig, and so it sounds like that'll be corrected. He said he doesn't feel as explosive. He doesn't say he feels slower, but he doesn't feel quite as explosive as he did when he was at 200 pounds. I think he came to Ohio State at like 210. He said it's just, that's just kind of a natural thing, and you're just trying to get your weight, you're trying to get used to it, where, if you put on, we've all like been through the holidays, and then you get on the treadmill in January and it's like, ooh, this is a little harder than it was a couple months ago. I don't remember that. That's something you're just sort of getting used to. There was
I know one of the questions we get about him is just his mood, his demeanor. How was it?
He was energetic. He is a super, super impressive kid. Really, really impressive speaker. I mean, his dad is a radio host, so it's like, okay, I understand why you probably are pretty good at public speaking, but very, very impressive, very thoughtful guy. And yeah, you don't at all get the vibe that he's, 1 foot out the door because he's really frustrated. I think he looks at this as he has an opportunity to continue to develop, and just, he talked about the challenge of just, okay, you got to get used to like sticking your face mask in someone's chest. Like, this is not, you're not blocking little 180-pound corners like you are as a wide receiver. You're going to have to hit some big dudes, and you just got to get used to that, and just got to keep getting better at that. And he knows he's not a finished product right now, but he's working towards it, and sees the opportunity that's ahead of him.
Yeah, like, I think many people don't realize that they made this move. He made this move knowing that it was not going to be an overnight thing. Like, this is a process. This is part of a long process. This is year 3-4. I mean, technically, he has 4 more seasons, I guess, if he wants them. But he has 3 more seasons, basically, including this one, to be where he wants to be. And so he's definitely got time, and he's got the wherewithal, he's got the determination, and he's got like the track set out in front of him. He's got the plan in place to make it happen. And so, like, deviating from that plan is not part of the plan. So I think I know people are always wondering about him, and so I thought we should at least give that part out.
And one other thing that's interesting about, his conversation about the weight and, not feeling quite as explosive and all that kind of stuff, you see every once in a while you'll see photos, we'll see them in person, but if you, see photos online of guys wearing like these kind of crop top shirts, and there's like a little, looks like one of those things like you get at a restaurant to tell you when your table's ready, and it's like in the middle of the shirt.
That's where I put it.
Yeah, and what those things do is they're just trackers, and they track your speed, they track how far you've run, they track, explosiveness, short distance, all that kind of stuff. The sports science people, what they do is they look at that data, and they figure out, how fast are these guys running, and, how much are they lifting. They know how much these guys are lifting at all these different weights, and they figure out sort of the optimized weight for these guys at, based on that. So if, going from 230 to 240 means you can bench like 10 more pounds, but your 40 time slows by, 15 100ths of a second, well, then maybe that's not the right weight for you, and you need to go back down. So this is, I think you would typically in the past have said this is not an exact science, but it feels like it's getting more like an exact science now as the technology advances. Because, Kevin Wilson's talking about they're looking at effort. When they're measuring effort from guys, they're looking at, well, the tracker says, when he's running with Coach Mick, he runs 20 miles an hour. And when you're on the field with other guys out there, there are other, it's a little harder. You got to think, and there's other, you're not just sprinting from point A to point B. So, maybe running 19 miles an hour. If you're running 11 miles an hour, well, they know that he's, that you're not going full effort at that point. So there is so much data. And it always feels like, this is a conversation that you hear in baseball all the time, that, the team side analytics have so much more information than the public side, public facing people could possibly know. It feels like that's kind of the case here in football as well, where there's so much stuff that they have, and so much data and information that they have to sort of make these decisions based on, that it's, this is so much more complicated than you might think.
Yeah, no, it's not an exact science, but some of it is. And they're trying to make as much good use of that as you can. It's just a matter of like, are you making the right use of it? It's like, you have some exact science, some exact data right here, but did you give somebody too much rest? Are you not giving them enough rest? And all of that stuff that has been peer reviewed and like diced up, and it's crazy. And then the nutrition aspect of it, and just like everything is regimented. It's beyond anything that you could really even imagine. One last thing that I have from the scrimmage, Kevin Wilson said the offense didn't run it as well as he would have liked, but that Dallin Hayden looked good, popped a couple of big ones, looks fast, looks explosive, good sign for a freshman, which you're also expecting him to be out there against other, 2s and 3s and stuff like that. But still not where they want to be running the ball. And I think that's the case for, that's not just Kevin Wilson saying that, that's others as well.
Yeah, and I think when we got to watch a little bit of practice last Thursday, you saw, interior of the offensive line is maybe not quite where they needed to be right now. It's not bad, it's just not quite where they needed to be to get to where they want to get ultimately. That feels like I just did a show on the 3 biggest concerns for the Ohio State team, kind of going into the season right now, looking at backup offensive line and linebackers and corners and there's sort of different reasons for all of those things being concerns right now. I think I don't know that the interior of the offensive line is a concern right now, but it's it's one of those like that the doctor looks at your test results and kind of like cocks an eyebrow and goes, well, we'll keep an eye on that. It's not a concern yet, but it's an area where they're going to have to improve. Right. And you ask every college football coach this time of year, where do you guys need to improve before the first game? And they'll say everything, all 9 units. And the punt coverage has to get better, and the kickoff return has to get better, and the Hail Mary defense has to get better. Everything has to get better. But that feels like something that just, don't be concerned. Don't lose any sleep. If you have a sleep tracker on, you don't lose any sleep over it, but just that's another thing to just kind of keep an eye on, because it kind of has popped up a couple times during conversations.
Yeah, I think it was Bill Rabinowitz from the Dispatch asked Kevin Wilson about, you always have a great offense here. You just assume it's going to happen. Like, what concerns do you have right now? And Wilson was like, exactly what you said, assuming. Like, you can't just assume it's going to happen. All of the work that has been done every single time to make it one of the best offenses in the nation has to continue. And so it's fundamentals, it's finding the flaws of not being able to stay regimented on long drives and then working on that 2 days later in your next practice. It's looking back at all of the data that you had from past practices, past seasons. I mean, Urban Meyer used to have folders of like every year that he's done this, of what worked, what didn't. I'm sure every coach does as well, where, okay, now we do this. And it's all very designed and delegated, and it's not just, yes, they're going to have great offense, but not just because.
Yeah, that doesn't happen by accident. That happens through recruiting, that happens through scheme, that happens through development, that happens through study, that happens through analytics. There's a lot that goes into it. I always feel like people, even people who think about Ohio State football a lot, people who wake up every morning thinking about Ohio State football would be shocked at how much less they think about Ohio State football than the people in this building. Even if you are the craziest Ohio State fan people are like, shut up, stop talking about Ohio State football for 5 minutes, you're not thinking about Ohio State football as much as the people in this building are. And, they have, it's always a little dangerous to default to the coaches are always right, because the coaches know better. Coaches can make bad decisions at times, but they have so much more information from the sports science stuff, from the, evaluating every frame of practice video over and over again.
Evaluating attitudes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Evaluating, how, when you come into a team meeting on, February 17th, how was your mood? How was your attitude on that day?
Not great, Bob.
It's cold. I get it. But yeah, there's just so much of that stuff that goes into all these decisions. And it's like, well, I watched the spring game and he didn't look very good there. It's like, well, there also were 15 practices there and another 20-something practices this fall. And yeah, there's all of the summer workouts and all that kind of stuff. There's always a lot that goes into this that I never feel like people completely appreciate.
Yeah, just because you may have 15 spreadsheets about Ohio State football, like they've got 1,000 times more. One last thing, Bennett Christian, he's at 245 now, wants to get to 250. Anything else from the tight ends that you want to throw in?
That was all I had. I'm through my notes.
Okay. I want to mention the captains, 6 captains named. You have C.J. Stroud, top vote getter. You have Cade Stover. You have I've got them written down if you want.
You do, yeah. You should.
Cam
Babb, yep.
Yeah, and then Tommy Eichenberg, Court Williams, and Tyler Friday. Trying to do this.
I was trying to figure out where you're going with that. I'm like, I don't think there was any.
But what I'm saying is there were 7 Iron Buckeyes. 5 of them end up captains. The only 2 Iron Buckeyes that weren't captains, Julian Fleming and Ronnie Hickman. The only captain that was not an Iron Buckeye, C.J. Stroud. Seems like the vetting process is the Iron Buckeye. And it's not a surprise.
Yeah, that feels like that's kind of table stakes at this point too, and that is all the stuff that we were just talking about. It's people you're doing a lot of, you're putting in the work in the weight room, you're putting in the work off the field, you're coming in with a good attitude, you're coming in with all the stuff that you need to have in order to be a good teammate. This is a slightly more scientific version of Tom Herman's old men's room charts at Texas about being a good teammate. So yeah, but that's the stuff they're looking for. When they talk about leadership, they're talking about guys who set a good example. That's how you set a good example.
All right, we've got practice going on, warm-ups and stuff like that going on behind us, so we better go ahead and wrap up before somebody gets injured. Although, if it's the right person getting injured, we could stay. But Kevin's been nice, he's been quiet. We won't do that to him. I am number one, thank you. Anyway, that will do it for today's show. I want to thank you all for joining us. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the thumbs up, all that stuff if you haven't done it already. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys later.